Hello, it's John Heaton, and I'm going to give you my reaction to the new Beatles song Now and Then. It's been a long time in anticipation of this event, this famous event. The song came out yesterday. It's supposed to be in the shops today. I couldn't find it here in Budapest, but it'll be here before long. First of all, I just want to say what a job Paul McCartney and Giles Martin have done producing this song, because the demo was hardly a song at all, and they made it into quite a listenable experience. You can't hide all of the shortfalls of the original song, but they've done a pretty good job. Paul's re-recorded the piano, Ringo has put down some tasty drums, George 20 years ago did some electric guitar work and acoustic guitar work, and Paul has laid down a very nice slide, very simple slide solo in the style of George Harrison, and put in a decent bass line. There's some nice strings arranged by Paul and Giles Martin as well, in the style of Eleanor Rigby kind of thing. Nice backing vocals. I think everything they've done, production-wise, on the song is to their credit. Paul coming in and taking over the vocal from John on the second verse is particularly moving. To hear them singing together is a joy. I have to say, the song itself, it was unfinished at best when in demo form, and to all intents and purposes it's only got a verse, quite a simple minor key verse, no real chorus to speak of, and no middle eight. So limited structure of a song for Paul and co to deal with, but they did a decent job, as I say. I have to say, when the chorus came in, Now and Then, kind of expecting them to sing I Bet You Think This Song Is About You from the song You're So Vain, Carly Simon. But yeah, I don't particularly like the song still, to be honest with you, but I think they've made the best of a bad job, or whatever the phrase is. They've made it into something listenable, which frankly in demo form it wasn't. I don't particularly like all this fanfare, it's the last Beatles single, and making a big deal of it, and all the reviews I've seen have been immensely positive and calling it a great song, when I don't think it is a great song. I think if John had released it in the late 70s, the critics would have slaughtered it. It was out of tune for the times, and John quite rightly left it on the shelf when he went back into the studio for Double Fantasy. He laid down a number of tracks, but this one didn't even reach the studio. And had he released it on an earlier album like Mind Games, it would have been, for me, the weakest track on the album. I think the lyrics are weak, insipid, and I think the lyrics are about Yoko. I know a lot of people think it's about Paul, which might make it sound more emotional, but I think that's wishful thinking, in my opinion. So frankly, as a song, I don't think it's up to John Lennon's standards. I'm just thinking a contender for his weakest track. Well, you can't even call it his weakest track because he didn't release it in his lifetime. So I think Flower Princess is his weakest track, which made it into the studio, but even that wasn't released in his lifetime, and he may well have just rejected it. So I've got mixed feelings, but when I hear Philip Norman, I hear that he didn't like it, I'm bound to stick up for it. I was quite amused by Liam Gallagher calling it celestial, biblical, and being thoroughly moved by it. And then a comment on his Twitter, his X account, said, I was a bit worried you weren't going to like it. And Liam Gallagher hilariously said, the Beatles could shit in my handbag and I'd still hide my polo mints there. So I thought it was a very amusing remark. So what else have we got to say? I think the nostalgia factor has a lot to do with the fact that people's reaction to it. It is very nostalgic that we've got a new Beatles song. It's very emotional. I wasn't blabbing when I first heard it, but I must admit, a lot of people said when they heard Lennon's voice it got them blabbing. But I have to say, what absolutely did get me blabbing in the end was the video from Peter Jackson. What a masterpiece. And it's hilarious. It's got the younger John and George playing around and with the older Paul and Ringo, and it's a little bit awkward in one aspect because Paul and Ringo are in their 80s, but on the other hand it's very heartwarming and emotional. So what else can I say? I must admit, I listened to it yesterday about 15 or 20 times, and I was gazing at my White Album pictures on the wall and getting a bit lost in nostalgia. So I'm not immune to being sentimental and nostalgic. I just think if we're honest, it's not a great song, and it certainly is not going to go down in the sort of higher echelons of Beatles songs, and it doesn't really deserve a place on the Blue and the expanded Blue album, if I'm honest. And as I say, had it got released in the late 70s, when all the Wings albums and Double Fantasy even got completely slaughtered, and you compare Lennon's tracks on Double Fantasy to this one, and they were on another level, lyrically, melodically, everything. And even that album got heavily criticised at the time for being maudlin and too sentimental. So, as I say, lyrically, it's particularly weak, in my opinion. So I was just reminded by Roger Waters made a remark when Momentary Lapse of Reason came out and said they'd done a good imitation of the Pink Floyd sound. And I thought my first reaction to this song was, yeah, they've done a good imitation of the Beatles sound. But after all, it is the Beatles working on it, so what do you expect? And I think Paul McCartney in particular deserves credit for lifting this song from being, as a friend of mine said, not much of a song, if a song at all, and making it into something thoroughly listenable. And Peter Jackson has done an incredible job with the video. But at the end of the day, if it is called a Beatles song, one is entitled to compare it to the catalogue, and it falls short as a song. But I wouldn't be without it. I'm glad it exists. They've done a good job. I wish they just slipped it out on some anthology album rather than making this big fanfare. In fact, in some respects, I wish they just released it as a John Lennon track with the other Beatles guesting on it, because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's not really a Beatles track, in my opinion, but they're entitled to call it that if they like. So that was my reaction to Now and Then. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.